diceva ricordati che portami un fiore quando sarò anch'io vicino a tuo papà.
Oh, those Italians. They are so emotional. Of course, it helps to have a glass of wine in your hand. We are at the Bardolino Wine Festival on the shores of Lake Garda in northern Italy, looking for inspiration, in several ways, and poetry. Oh, where are the poets these days, those bards of epic verse, the drunkards and the rakes, whose words spurred torrid love and sent armies off to battle? I've personally known only one professional poet. He was a guy who lived in a van and used the occasion of the publication of one of his verses in a precious little journal as an excuse to spend several days sampling a tasting menu of controlled substances. Writer Jan Morris told me once that her son, a poet, along with a group of Welsh comrades, had gone on strike against the country's broadcasting system. But unless you live in Wales, become adopted as a poet laureate, occupy a tenured position, or change your name to Ice-T, your financial life stands little chance of becoming rosy as the result of your poesy. In history, however, poets had clout and lived in really cool places, like here at Lake Garda. In the 1st century, Catullus, who hobnobbed with Caesar, satirized him, and lived to tell about it, retired to the hot springs at the lower end of the lake in a place called Sirmione. The Grotte di Catullo was actually a Roman spa with sulfur springs, where Caesar himself supposedly bathed. Its ruins are really spectacular, and they're set in a picturesque little park full of gnarly old olive trees. But Catullus probably didn't hold a candle to poet-fascist bad boy Gabriele D'Annunzio, whose monument to depravity, Il Vittorale, is perched on a hill on Garda's western shore. D'Annunzio used his writing and social graces to woo some of the beauties of Europe, get rich, and even raise a private army that reclaimed a piece of Italy from Yugoslavia before World War II. That made him a national hero. He was also a fascist propagandist as well as a poet, and even dropped flyers himself from an airplane. But Mussolini awarded D'Annunzio his palace, hoping that he'd just stay there and keep his mouth shut. D'Annunzio didn't. Il Vittorale is a fascinating place in its warped sort of way. It is open to the public. A splendid view of Lake Garda can be had from the prow of the battleship Puglia, which is stuck into the side of the mountain. After D'Annunzio used the Puglia in his Yugoslav campaign, he had it hauled up there as a monument, of course, to himself. The mad poet had separate reception rooms for people he liked and people he didn't like. Mussolini was numbered among the latter. An embalmed gilded tortoise decorated his dining room, and he was known to abandon his guests in favor of retiring to a salon, where, lying on leopard skins, he contemplated death. This guy was a real piece of work. Nearby in Verona, however, is a monument to one of the greatest and best-loved poets and playwrights of all times, William Shakespeare. For our wedding anniversary, my wife Pat and I paid a visit to the Casa di Giulietta on Via Capello, a street named after the Capulets of Romeo and Juliet fame. Juliet didn't exist, but the feuding families, the Capulets and the Montagues, did.
Oh, hark, hark, what light from yonder balcony breaks.
And yes, there is a balcony from which Pat called out to me, and I shouted back with a bunch of thou arts and some phony stage English I picked up in an acting class. There was a click, and she was digitally photographed. Her face, for a price, could be embossed on a coffee mug. Oh, what fools these mortals be. We passed in the mug, skipped the hemlock routine, and headed for a nearby square, ordered a bottle of plunk, and toasted to love, wine, Shakespeare, Catullus, and half-heartedly acknowledged D'Annunzio, who has probably also managed to put on quite a show in hell. Garda is Italy's largest lake. We spent a full week at the charming Gardasana Hotel at Torre del Bonaco on the lake's east shore. That's just north of Punta San Viglio, where Churchill painted and wrote his memoirs. Torre is a tiny medieval town with cobblestone streets and little alleys with shops and other surprises. One of the beauties of this place is that automobiles are prohibited. Our room overlooked a little boat harbor and a castle. The area is a bit remindful of California's Napa Valley, with a lake added, with olive groves and the vineyards of Bartolino and Valpolicella. The fall, after the tourist season, is the best time to go. It's when towns like Bartolino have their festivals. Bardolino is a light, unassuming red wine. I don't really fancy it at home, but here, for $1 a glass, it's possible to become quite poetic, quite lyrical, quite quickly. And that, to me, is what Italy is all about.
Quando